Thank you, Craig. Well, everyone, we spent a lot of time engaging a range of voices from government, industry, and academia, all discussing and all processing how we can help better bridge that education to workforce gap. And so now it's actually time to hear people who are bridging that gap today. And I'm excited to be moderating a panel of 5 all-star students and current or recent graduates. They're engaged in a variety of industries, ranging from photonics to healthcare, to manufacturing, to computer science. And after getting to know them just a little bit recently, I can say that it's going to be a treat for all of us today to hear about their journeys and their insights. So we have here, and I'm just going to introduce very quickly our 5, or I see 4 of us, 4 panelists. And the first one we have is Musi Demise. He studied computer science at Bunker Hill Community College and recently finished a bachelor's degree at MIT. And he's just starting last week, just started to work at Oracle. We have Jean Bazile, and he recently finished a photonics technician program at Stonehill Community College. And now he's interning as a clean room technician at IQE. Thank you. And next we have Greg Harris. He just finished a CNC operator training program at Greenfield Community College. And he's currently working in the quality department at VSS, which is a precision machining shop in Massachusetts. And next we have Caitlin Frick. She studied mechanical engineering at Springfield Technical Community College and now is studying advanced manufacturing at Northeastern. And she's a machinist at Peerless Precision. And finally, we have Marissa Nye. She's a recent grad from the Community Health Worker Program at Holyoke Community College. And currently she's working as a breastfeeding peer counselor at WIC and is interning at the Women of Color Health Equity Collective in Springfield. So to the 5 of you, thank you so much for joining me on this panel. We're really looking forward to hearing your stories and experiences and insights. So my first question to each of you, and we can go in alphabetical order starting from John, is if you would, in a few minutes each, could you share your education journey with us? So starting with what were you doing before you embarked on this career, the key turning point that got you on this career path, and milestones on this journey to bring you to where you are today. So starting with Jean. And Jean, you are mute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for everybody in this panel. My name is Jean, but can also pronounce as Jean. I am a recent graduate from the Photonics Certificate Program. But before that, my journey started with Massachusetts Community College. I graduated, oh boy, probably like 12 years ago, as a business administration degree, moving from Massachusetts to Bridgewater State. And then my kids were born, and then I had to drop out from school. I have twins, so I had to drop out from school so I can take care of my family. And yeah, and I waited probably 10 years before I went back to the schooling education, because my kids are like 12 now. And I bumped into this program just by coincidence, because right now I was doing design architecture for CVS. I did have a degree in design with Wentworth, CAD design, and I was doing that for CVS. So I was commuting from Brockton to Woonsocket, Rhode Island. So it's 50 miles each way. So I was doing like 100 miles every day. So I had my radio on. I had NPR, and then all of a sudden I heard something about photonics and how, you know, we need technicians. And then I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot, because I mean, it couldn't hurt. So first of all, I called Judy at MIT. So she gladly put me in contact with BSU, and BSU told me that, you know what, the session hasn't come in yet. So yeah, so this is my journey to photonics. So right now I am enrolled in Bridgewater to become a photonics engineering major. So the 4-year programs after the certificate. So um, I work at IQE. It's a great place to work if you want to know manufacturing semiconductors, what's technology it's going to do for you. So I was shocked to see, from certificate and then come into the field and then work exactly what I was learning at school. So yeah, I'm excited. IQE, like I said, it's a very, very, very good company for people who wants to learn and has technicians. So yeah, kudos to them. Kudos to my boss, Peter, because right now I'm at work, but they'll gladly let me, advance my career and then, to just furthermore help the company and then me by, you know, investing in me. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean. And just as a small note of background, Jean just mentioned Julie. That's Miss Julie Diop. She's the executive director of a center of manufacturing and knowledge at MIT called ICAM. So thank you, Jean. And so why don't we have Musi share his story next?
Yeah, thank you very much. So my story can kind of begin. Me and my parents immigrated here to the US, and initially had some immigration issues. So I just decided to work while waiting for that to be figured out. That's when I was looking into schools because I had finished high school back in Ethiopia, and I found Bunker Hill Community College. While at Bunker Hill Community College, I had part-time jobs that I was working from Walgreens to the Prudential to different places. But a few semesters in, I think 2 semesters in, I started working on campus, which really opened up my eyes to what I could achieve at Bunker Hill and what resources were available for me and for all students, honestly, and how much effort there was in terms of retaining students, making sure that they graduate. So I spent about 2.5 years at Bunker Hill Community College, got my degree in computer science. At Bunker Hill, I fell in love with MIT OCW, which is MIT Open Courseware, which is an open learning, open educational resources initiative that's 20 years old right now. But basically MIT publishes their courses for free online. And because of that, I had grown very fond of MIT. And I had applied to transfer. After I got my degree, I transferred to MIT, spent the last 3 years there, and recently graduated with my bachelor's in electrical engineering, computer science. And yeah, I'm on week 2 at software engineering at Oracle.
That's fantastic. And good luck to you, of course, at Oracle in your week 2. Greg?
Hi. So I worked at the Daily Hampshire Gazette in Northampton, Massachusetts for 19 years. I could see the trend of the industry for quite some time. And I had an employee who had left to go into manufacturing with a shop in Westfield. And we were discussing it before he had left. And he was going in as a trainee, making close to what I was making as a manager. And it really had me thinking about it. So I also heard an ad on the radio one day for the foundational manufacturing course through GCC. And I contacted Andrew Baker about it. And then COVID happened and my work schedule went haywire and I wasn't able to enter into it at that point because my schedule had just shifted so much and I began working nights. So a few months later, the Gazette made the decision to outsource all production, and as a consequence, I, along with about 30 other people, was laid off. And at that point, just through happenstance, Andrew Baker contacted me again and said, "We have another round of this coming up. Would you be interested in it?" I said, "You know, I'd actually would be. I have the time now." So I went through the foundational manufacturing course, which is really just kind of a basic introductory course to manufacturing. A lot of it was kind of familiar to me because I did work in a light manufacturing industry. I was on the production side. And then after that, I made the decision to enroll in the CNC course, which is was a 6-week course, about 120 hours, and which was also certainly introductory. You don't get in that compressed period of a time, you don't get the same thing as a student would who goes through all 4 years at a tech school. But what it gave me was an introduction to what's involved in it, a familiarity with terms, a familiarity with the machines, and it also gave me a leg up when I started my job search because the manufacturing industry is really, really hungry for experienced people. Most of the new hires I've seen in the last 6 months have almost no experience, if any at all. So I was able to leverage that into multiple job offers. And ultimately, I chose to go with VSS because I liked the people I met when I went there. And now, within 3 months, I was money-wise, I was making what I made as a manager. And without all the responsibility and hassles I had before. So it's been a very good experience, and it was a real good way in a short amount of period to make a complete career change. I had no training outside of the industry I was in previously, and I looked at the industry, and the people I saw coming in were kind of sort of transient laborers. They were people who worked at this newspaper, but they closed down, and they just kind of kept moving along to what few newspapers were open anymore. And I didn't want that for my life, and I didn't think it would also sustain me up until retirement. So I wanted something that had legs to it, and this seemed like the right thing.
Thank you, Greg. And you've touched on a number of themes that I'd like to return to after this, after the intro. So thank you for highlighting a lot of points, really important ones. How about let's have Caitlin share next?
So I started my educational journey when I went to high school. I went to high school at Pathfinder Vocational High School in Palmer, Mass. And I studied manufacturing technology. So when I graduated in 2015, I decided that I wanted to go to college, but I wasn't too sure if I wanted to continue on with my manufacturing experience or if I wanted to take it into engineering. So that's why I went to Springfield Technical Community College and I studied mechanical engineering technology because it incorporated a little bit of machining, manufacturing with the engineering and design. And it kind of gave me a little taste of both things. And I graduated from STIC in 2019 with my associate's degree. But during the time that I was at STIC, I was offered an internship from my current employer, Peerless Precision. So I really didn't have too much of a struggle to transition from, my education to a career because, I already had it kind of lined up when I came here. And so I continued on with my career. I currently work as a machinist, and I started out here working on CNC machines, and I decided that I kind of wanted to try out a couple different things. So I jumped around from different positions in my workplace, and now I work on a manual lathe, which is no automatic controls at all, and I love it. But during that time that I was trying to find my niche, I decided that I wanted to go back to college and pursue my bachelor's degree. So my old college, my community college, they were offering this articulation agreement with Northeastern University. So I decided to apply there, and I applied for advanced manufacturing systems, and I was accepted, and I have been studying there ever since. I'm hoping to be done with my bachelor's degree next year in 2022, and I plan on continuing to work for my current employer because, they gave me the opportunity to pursue my education and supported me and backed me 100%. So I feel like, this is the kind of environment that I want to be in. People who want you to do better, it will support you to do better. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's a fantastic
Thank you.
story, Caitlin. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Marissa?
I am Marissa. I just completed the community health worker program at HCC, Holyoke Community College. Before that, I had actually had my bachelor's degree in sociology already. I received that about 12 years ago or so now. I wasn't really doing much with that degree. I had been a patient care coordinator at a sleep organization, a health organization, sorry, a health company. And after graduation, and then I moved on to some other things. I did retail and worked as a pet sitter for fearful and reactive animals, where I learned a lot. And then I got pregnant with my first child, and I thought that I wanted to give back to friends and family who didn't understand breastfeeding, because I knew that it took a lot for me to learn about breastfeeding, and it's a natural thing that doesn't always come naturally. So I thought that I really wanted to be an internationally board certified lactation consultant. And when I looked into doing that, I realized that it would have cost me $4,000 in classes to just be able to apply. And so I put that dream on hold for a while, and I became an office assistant instead. Then I had my second child a few years after that, and my passion for being a breastfeeding consultant was reignited, and I started looking into it again. And I did start looking into how to do it without having to go back and get another degree, but you really have to be a health worker already, and I didn't really have a lot of background in that yet. So I started taking science classes at HCC, thinking that I would become a nurse first, and I was accepted into the nursing program. However, due to financial and personal reasons, I was not able to, I had to withdraw from the program before I even started. And that's when the community health worker program, which is a grant funded program, fell into my lap. And I spoke to my advisor, and I found out that it was actually a blessing in disguise that I found this program, because it was more the hands-on care, working with participants and clients who need that connection between the health that they need and their practitioners. So that's where I'm at now.
That's it. That is an incredible story, Marissa. I was trying to write down all of the little twists and turns that the career has taken, and it is phenomenal.
I have a lot of interests, so.
And quite a few interests. Yes. Thank you. So in sharing all 5 stories, what I've heard, and there's a lot of themes today, and unfortunately we have limited time, but I want to get first to interest and motivation, because each of you came from very different places. We have, and let's start with Marissa, Greg, and Jean. Each of you were in a previous career before. So whether that's design architecture, whether that's homemaking administration, or it was in the print industry, right? You were fairly established and did fine in those careers before. And at some point you decided, you know what, this career is more attractive. So I'm going to ask you to give us your top 3 reasons for picking the one that you had the one that you are in now. And it could range for each of you. It could be interest just in the field, the purpose of, the purpose or the value that you add, the kind of value that you add. It could be the stability or the financial perspective. It could be community. It could be simply the commute, that it's more convenient. It could be the lifestyle that this type of career is compatible with. It's a lot of different things. We'll give you a minute to think, but whoever would like to share first, your top 3, and just give us keywords. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Jean, you are mute.
I don't mind going first. This is Gene. I was, like I said, I was doing architecture design for a very big firm, which is a CVS corporate, and I was making okay money, but I did a career change where right now I am kind of making half what I was making. So my salary got cut in half, but some people might said, "Oh, why are you doing that?" It's just to follow my passion. My passion since I was like a teenager, I was, opening TV, seeing exactly what's what I make my first transistor radio when I was like 8. So with transistors, by connecting transistors and speakers and old batteries. So that was my passion. Architectural design was something that sustained me and my family. And like I said, right now, my kids, they're turning 13 and they're looking for college. So it's like me following my passion. And hopefully that IQE will see exactly what kind of person I am, how reliable I am, and how knowledgeable I am with this field. And hopefully I'll get a pay raise. But right now, it's like I'm making half of what I was making. So coming from architectural design to a technician, it's like cutting your salary in half. But kudos to my advisor that says, listen, if it's your passion, you want to go for it. You never know. You could just continue, and then within 5 years, you'll probably be successful at it. So yeah, I'm giving it a shot, and so we'll see exactly what's going on, because right now my internship is finishing probably like in 2 months at IQE. Hopefully, I'll be transitioning to a better career. Now, I want to stay at IQE, to be honest with you, but like I said, it's the salary wise, it's not what I was making, at least not half, but 2/5 of what, it's a decision that I need to make. And probably going to General Dynamic, which is the neighbor of IQE, which is more military and background, and then more sophisticated.
Thank you, Jean. And I just have to say, it's so compelling to hear, because often in our workforce discussions, we do discuss salary quite a bit, but here you are taking a pay cut because you're so passionate about this field of photonics and semiconductors. That's very compelling.
Right.
How about Greg or Marissa?
Yeah, salary was initially a concern for me. That was one of the reasons why I had initially gone for the nursing program first, because of the salary. But ultimately, what brought me to my current position as a breastfeeding peer counselor was, like Jean was saying, the passion of doing that job and giving back to breastfeeding individuals who otherwise wouldn't have anywhere to turn, or maybe even if they do, it's just an extra support that they can have as a WIC participant. WIC is, for those who don't know, is a for women, infants, and children's program. And so I was a participant of WIC, and so that's how I got involved to begin with, and just receiving that care myself made me that much more passionate to give back to moms and breastfeeding individuals that are kind of following a similar path that I had. And so I guess along with that, the passion is the community, being able to share my experiences with the community members of WIC.
So seeing that value that you can add to your
Yeah.
community, that sounds to be quite a driver in your decisions.
Yes, and the internationally board certified lactation consultants track, a lot of people had given me the advice that I should be an IBCLC and open up my own practice because they make a lot more money, but everyone should have access to this kind of healthcare for breastfeeding individuals. And so it's not enough for me to be making money and helping people who can pay that. There are a lot of people who can't pay for that and still deserve that care.
It's fantastic. Wow, thank you. Greg?
I would say that my three reasons are probably money, stability, and future. I was able, without having any sort of advanced degree, make lateral moves pay-wise in a career that I'm just starting off in, at the entry level. And it's a career that has both stability and future, in that even if the company I'm at, something happens and it closes or sells out or anything like that, I now have hard transferable skills where I can go somewhere else. Or if I choose to leave of my own accord and go somewhere else, I'm able to do that. I walked into it, I had a lot of soft skills from my time at the Gazette, and but I didn't have any hard skills. I had gone on interviews prior to doing this, and I just couldn't answer questions about the industry because I had no idea what I was getting into, no idea what I was doing. And now I can do that. And as time goes on and I gain more skills, it'll raise my stock.
Yep. Thank you. So salary stability and future. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that. Caitlin and Musi, you two have had what we could say a little bit more of a linear or more focused journey from the beginning to now, even if they've come with their own terms, but as far as goals wise, what would you say? Because even if you heard from the previous session, there's a lot of discussion around high school or the earlier years, formative years. So in your more formative years, when you're thinking about, what would be a great promising career, what led you to advanced manufacturing or computer science? What was it that really sparked your interest?
I can go first. Um, so I did high school back in Ethiopia, and in high school I followed you can either go into sciences or social sciences. So I was already kind of somewhat pigeonholed in the sciences, and that was through my choice. But I think the main reason why I chose computer science is because I come from a resource constrained environment. And computer science really seemed like one of those careers where it didn't take too much. It wasn't capital intensive. It wasn't a lot of the roadblocks to making something impactful uh, that existed in other industries didn't seem to exist within computer science. Um, and really, I zoomed in on computer science once I got to Bunker Hill Community College when I had a list of majors to choose from. So the major things in my head were, one, I'm coming from a low resource area and I want to go back to that low resource area and do impactful work. So what can allow me to do that? Secondly, what's in front of me? What are my options, and how can I make the best of what I have? Um, and I love problem solving. So, and I think a lot of industries have that, honestly, but it kind of, that intersection felt good.
Thanks, Mercy. Caitlin?
I think the aspect that really made me go into manufacturing and kind of engineering is I've always been interested in like technology, and I honestly think technology is amazing, and I kind of wanted to become a part of that because I feel like sometimes I might be like, oh, I can't do this, or oh, I could never do any meaningful work to like change things. And I went into that was the driving force for me to go into manufacturing, because I did like designing things in high school. Like I've taken a lot of engineering specific classes. Like I wouldn't say engineering, like engineering technology classes in high school that kind of taught you like how to like use like CAD and CAM and things. And I would sit there and draw things and make things, and I'm like, wow, like I could do this for a living. Like it seems like it was something that really like piqued my interest. And then when I decided to do machining back in high school, I like the idea that I could take things that I designed in the computer that can be, useful or meaningful, and I can make it into something that I can hold in my hands. Like I don't know if you know what like a speed handle is for like a vise, but I designed a speed handle when I was in high school, and I made it, and I was like, wow, like I can actually hold this in my hands. Like I made this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's why that really was the driving force, is being able to like test my limits, like what I'm able to do.
So what I'm hearing from Lucy and Caitlin is both the interest and passion in the field, whether it's the fulfillment of making something or designing something, and also a desire for impact, going back to your community through technology, making a positive impact. So those are, thank you for sharing, both of you. And now I want to, all five of you have shared actually quite a range of different education programs at this point, ranging from high school and voc ed high school, community college, to also professional programs, to university level degrees as well. So what I'd like to ask you is if you can help us, help the audience understand what were some of the key elements in your education programs that helped you succeed. So clearly you're all people of incredible passion and drive, but what were the things in the programs that helped you get to where you are now? And anyone who has an answer can go first.
I think for me it was um, the program coordinators and my advisor, my professors. Um, that that was one key element. The program director. Um, if I didn't have the support from them, I wouldn't have been able to be successful in my program. It's probably the number one thing that helped me through my program.
Uh, Personally, for me, I would highlight a couple of things. One, back when I was at Bunker Hill, I was part of the Mass Life Sciences Internship Challenge, which, so I've been, in terms of the internships I've done, they've almost all exclusively been in medical devices and biotech. And that was kind of the first place I got a chance to see what that was like. So programs like that give you kind of somewhat protected access, because doing an internship, you're competing with a lot of people, and sometimes it can be difficult if you don't have the background to apply to these things. So programs such as the internship challenge for me have been pivotal. I think secondly, very active voices within the community colleges. So we had people that were very intentional about making sure that the students at Bunker Hill Community College transferred to four-year institutions, made sure they were looking out for jobs and all of that in their majors. And then I think lastly, from my industry experience side of it, I think one, there needs to be an appreciation of kind of the rationale, the decision-making rationale that students need to make when taking a position or when refusing a position. I've been offered non-paid positions where previously I was working 30 hours at very close to minimum wage, and those things fared better. And maybe in the long term, that was a wrong decision, but sometimes when you're resource constrained, you have to think about the short term. And so keeping that in mind when making these offers, of trying to put yourself in the shoes of someone that does need to make these decisions. And secondly, kind of having being culturally open, and this doesn't necessarily mean, for me as an Ethiopian, but for me, that a person that goes to community college, for someone that doesn't necessarily know all the customs of working and living in the US, I think the places that said, hey, we know it's okay if you need help, what they basically did was they aligned their goals with mine for my betterment, and that made it easier for me to align my goals with them of working really hard and making an impact at the organization that I was.
Wow, that's fascinating. Wow. Internships, active voices, an appreciation of the short-term versus long-term needs of the student, cultural openness. Wonderful. Anyone else? We'll take one more person and then we'll move on.
Mine was also the support I received throughout the program. It's a program that's partnered with MassHire as well as GCC. And in addition to just the satisfaction of seeing their students succeed, there's a vested interest in our success because of the state funding that comes with success, and as well as the industry partnering with it, the different companies that do it. We weren't able to do it because of COVID, but I guess normally they have a job fair where different companies from around the area come right there and interview students right on the spot. And the one-on-one coaching I received through MassHire, and as well as my instructors in the program, was really, really good to be able to help me find a new job.
Thanks, Greg. It does sound like, when we often talk about education, we focus a lot on curriculum, skills that industry is asking for, skills that we can offer in the community colleges or the programs. I think what many of you have highlighted today, though, is the support that's outside the classroom, the program director, the advising from your education to the workforce, job opportunities, coaching, and I think also hearing the support as far as culture and your own life stages as well. So that's a fascinating theme that seems to be coming out of all of what you've shared just now. I feel a little disappointed that we only have 3 minutes left because clearly, and I don't know if you're following the chat, our student panelists, but if you just see there's many of our audiences here are saying just how inspiring your stories are and how much it, often when we discuss and make decisions, it's still often hard to pair it with faces, but what you're doing today is you're showing us and you're giving us the stories and you're allowing us to see the faces that are that we're working towards. So the final question I have, because we have a range of leaders in industry and academia and also government gather today. So my last question for you is, what do you want educators and policymakers, industry leaders to know about the student experience?
I'd like to take this one. Uh, so far, they are doing a fantastic jobs because right now they are recruiting the right student who is motivated. Because right now for my program, photonics, manufacturing photonics, we started the class with I believe 14 students. 12 of us end up graduating. So it's, I would say 98% of the class stick together, and it was a good ride. It was experience wide. It was very good. That's what motivated me to jump to Bridgewater State to the photonics engineering program so I can move on. And not only that, it's it's a race, because right now technology, it doesn't wait for anybody. Okay, if the US does not take the leg up on this, on the wave of technology, somebody is going to have to fill the gap. And we have brightest mind who can solve these problems, but it's just a matter of finding them. And so far, teacher, counselor, advisor have doing a fantastic jobs, and kudos to them for getting the student in the right place.
Thanks, Sean.
I'd really like to answer this question. I would really like everyone to know that I think I grew up with the idea that you went to university or college, you went to a 4-year, and that's what you did after college. That's what I graduated with 300 other students, and we had a big board up during senior week about everybody signed where they were going. And if it said a community college or a trade school or nothing, that was kind of looked down upon when I was in high school. And I want people to know that community college is not just an easy way out. It's not just an easy way to get a degree. I think that there are some people who use it as an easy way to get their gen eds knocked out before going to a 4-year, which is great for them. But for some people, it's a springboard for opportunity. So
Great insight. Thank you, Marissa.
I think I can go next. Generally, for all the different parts, I think you said government. Bureaucracy blocks people. I've worked at Bunker Hill, and I know personally that the FAFSA application, I met people and I've worked with people that the FAFSA application, they didn't know too much, or they felt confused, or they thought they were being asked too many things and left. So be careful about bureaucracy, because it can be a blocker, even though there's a prize at the end. I think for educators and people in industry, people in these situations, they are rational. I think there's this kind of paternalistic way of thinking about people in community colleges so what I would say is be data driven, but listen. As in, there's a way we collect data that's very kind of numbers and not really human. So listening, I think, is the best tool at your arsenal. Listening to your students, your employees, and making sure they know the benefits. Not that there are benefits, but they make sure they know and they feel like they can utilize these benefits.
I can go next. I feel like it's important to, when you have like, you know, students or employees who are pursuing like training or certificates or like degrees, that like to me, and I'm sure to other people, it's really important to have like that support system, like people in your workplace or like your teachers and, you know, professors that are pushing you to do better and be better and to improve your skills and, you know, be as marketable as possible. And, you know, and I feel like that's really important because like in my personal experience, I feel like I probably wouldn't have gotten this far without like great professors, great teachers, you know, and great management people in my workplace. Like, and I feel like that's a great feeling that should be shared, you know, universally with everybody. So
Fantastic. Thank you. Greg?
Um, I would say don't overlook somebody who's a little older, who's starting over. That was my case. I'm in my mid 40s, and it was definitely a fear of mine starting over, that I would get overlooked for young kids. But when you're older and you're starting over, you bring a lot of life experience with you, along with whatever training you have. And yeah, it's yeah, I think that's about it.
Thanks, Greg. And I do think to be able to crack the skills gap, we have to be able to look everywhere, wherever we have people who are willing and competent. And I think, Greg, you're a fantastic example of that. So to each of you, so Jean and Caitlin, Musi, Marissa, and Greg, thank you so much for your gift today. I hope you're seeing these comments, that there are a lot of people who are resonating, feeling challenged, and educated by your comments. And to Musi, you mentioned it's important that we listen. And that's what today has been about, that we get to listen to your stories, your experience, and your wisdom. So thank you very much for being generous with sharing your lives with us today. I hope to keep in touch. You have my contact, of course, and there's a number of others on the panel and in the comments here who are rooting for your success. So best of luck to your internships and your careers, to your new jobs. We're rooting for all of you, and we're rooting for the peers and the many others who will come after you. And we're listening because we want these pathways to be better for the people who come after you as well. So thank you very much to our student panelists. If you can join me to thank them. And everyone, I hope it was as informative and as inspiring for you as it was for me. We'll now take a 10-minute break and we'll come back. And when we come back, we'll have our keynote speaker, Celeste Carter from the National Science Foundation. So thank you very much.